Tiger King debuted on Netflix on March 20th, 2020. Within a few days of its initial debut, the world was hooked, with people all over the world questioning what happened to Carol's late husband. It seems episode 3 was the only one that really focused on the disappearance of Don Lewis, whose case went cold after the initial 1997 investigation, not leading anywhere. As you can imagine, since the debut of the show, people have speculated what may have actually happened to Don, so we thought it'd be fun to explore the top 5 theories, which of course include the most popular belief: Carol fed Don to the tigers. What's happening, guys? Welcome back to LBQ. I'm your host for this one, Jared Bronstein, and before we do start today's video, let me know in the comments below what you think actually happened to Don Lewis. I feel I know what most of you are thinking, as am I, but there are also 4 other theories people are speculating may have led to Don's disappearance. Make sure to stick around to the very end of this one for some comment replies as well, but for now, let's get right into it. Now, there's no particular order in regards to the 5 things that people believe may have happened to Carol's late ex-husband, Don. But let's start with the most widely believed one. Carol fed Don to the tigers. Now, maybe the idea of this is really what everyone is hoping for. Of course, no one would be happy to hear that another human being was fed to tigers, but I think the majority of people who want to believe this simply do just because it would make for a good story and shed a negative light on Carol Baskin. For whatever reason, the general public has become incredibly drawn to Joe Exotic, aka the Tiger King, even though he admitted to killing animals, including shooting a horse between the eyes, simply because he doesn't take care of people's pets. I don't get it, and although he is quite an entertaining character to say the least and makes for some great TV, he's still a pretty bad guy. That being said, it seems people are more so focused on bringing down Carol Baskin rather than focusing on how bad of a person Joe is, simply because they feel Joe was given a harsh punishment, while Carol, well, she just lost her husband and didn't seem all that upset by it. Although it seems Carol has been playing the victim as of late, the fact that she didn't tell the cops that her husband had gone missing for 3 days when he first disappeared certainly raises suspicion. There's also the fact that Don's first wife and children believe Carol had something to do with his disappearance, which leads us to the next theory about what happened to Don Lewis. Carol was involved. Now, you could say this is the same as the first theory, but it seems this one is much more broad. Of course, Carol feeding Don to the tigers would fall under the category that she was involved. However, maybe she wasn't involved in the sense that she was the one to commit the crime herself, but instead hired someone to do the dirty work for her, which actually ties in with the next theory, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. The reality is, Don was an incredibly wealthy and successful businessman, and there were a ton of signs that would make Carol seem guilty, from Don filing for a restraining order and saying he felt threatened by her, to his deed, which gave the majority of his fortune to Carol. Now, maybe Don did change his deed after he met Carol. Maybe he really did want to give her everything. But I have a hard time believing that Don would leave his family for Carol, and then for a final slap in the face, give the majority of his fortune to the woman he left his wife and mother of his own children for. It's not unheard of, just doesn't seem very likely. Now, when these claims came out, which started circulating the web not long after the show's debut, Carol released a statement of her own. There are not words for how disappointed it is to see that the series not only does not do any of that, she refers to the series as having the sole goal of being as salacious and sensational as possible to draw viewers. As part of that, it has a segment devoted to suggesting, with lies and innuendos from people who are not credible, that I had a role in the disappearance of my husband Don in 1997. The series presents this without any regard for the truth, or in most cases, even giving me an opportunity before publication to rebut the absurd claims. They did not care about the truth. The unsavory lies are better for getting viewers. There is no short, simple way to refute so many lies. She goes on to explain, as well as touch on a handful of other claims the docuseries made about her and Big Cat Rescue in general. So feel free to check out her whole statement on her website, all you cool cats and kittens. Now, as previously mentioned, Carol's involvement ties into this next theory that Jeff Lowe is responsible for the disappearance of Don. Guys, I don't make this stuff up, I have sources, and people genuinely believe Jeff's involvement in the grand scheme of things certainly wasn't accidental. Before Carol was with Don, she was married to a man named Michael Murdoch. In the docuseries, Carol explains her first husband Michael was abusive and that she married him when she was just 17 years old. After having a child together, she found it hard leaving, knowing she'd have to raise a child on her own. Then she met Don, left Michael, and got married a second time when she was 24. So how does all of this tie in together? Well, a Twitter thread which has gotten the attention of thousands of people has compared Jeff and Michael side by side, and well, people think they're the same person. It sounds crazy, but the thread with the photos comparing the two side by side is captioned, "Hear me out, Carol's first husband is Jeff Lowe, con artist. He and Alan killed Don. Carol pays them money she inherits. Years later, Jeff frames Joe for Carol. Both get off, cover up years of coercing, they take down all the Tiger Kings, and build the world's biggest attraction by Windstar." Now, when you put it that way, Well, there may be a case. That being said, I find this one hard to believe for multiple reasons. Carol and Joe weren't trying to tear each other down over 40 years ago when Carol was just 17 years old. They probably didn't even know each other's existence. Over the decades of the two of them going back and forth, the hate has become quite real. But to think that Carol and Jeff would plot to take down all animal sanctuaries in hopes of being the last remaining one over the course of a 25 or 30-year plan, it just seems like so much trouble for what? Clearly Jeff Lowe is happy doing his thing, even if it's incredibly illegal, frowned upon, and just downright wrong. He served his time, and I'm going to say he wasn't a part of the disappearance of Dawn, nor does he want anything to do with the mystery. Now, these next two theories are more likely, not to discredit the other three previously mentioned. I know as much about the case as they're letting us know, but given what we do know, it seems Carol may not have been the most pleasant person to live with. The investigation led to authorities finding Dawn's abandoned van at the airport, where he would have gone if he did in fact go to Costa Rica as planned when he randomly disappeared. Who's to say Dawn didn't make himself disappear, leaving without a trace and living his best life elsewhere? Of course, that wouldn't explain why his will changed to give the majority of his fortune to Carol, unless he was really trying to throw authorities off that he ran away. But it doesn't make sense that he would do that, because if you were trying to run away, why make it a secret? And also, why give the woman you're running away from the majority of your wealth and properties instead of giving it to your children at the very least? It's possible that maybe he didn't have the best relationship with his first wife and children, but to leave them with nothing seems a little suspicious and unlikely. There were also claims that Dawn felt threatened by Carol at times, tried to get a restraining order although it wasn't approved, and was known to frequently travel to Costa Rica to indulge in pleasures with other women. Carol also made a joke that when Dawn would go to Costa Rica, which she would do on a monthly basis, she would quickly bring in a vet to neuter and spay all the cats because Dawn loved to breed. Carol also mentioned they didn't agree on everything, and maybe rather than deal with the divorce and all the legal problems, Dawn took a bag of cash with him and decided to start a new life. It's not as fun as thinking Carol fed him to the tigers, but it's a very realistic scenario. Now finally, the last theory, Dawn was killed in a plane crash. It happens, planes go down and people go missing. Sometimes it's unclear what caused the crash, much like what happened with the Malaysian air flight that to this day is still a mystery. The only issue with this theory is that it doesn't really add up. Upon finding the van, it seems most of Dawn's things were left in the car, and there was no evidence that a plane ever actually took off. Meaning this theory isn't the most plausible, but neither is the idea that Jeff Lowe was also somehow involved. Joe Exotic believes Dawn was thrown in the septic tank of Big Cat Rescue, and to this day genuinely thinks if people did search, they'd find him there. Or at least what's left of him. It seems since Tiger King came out, everyone has become a detective and are sure they know what happened to Dawn Lewis. Unfortunately, there isn't clearly enough of a case against Carol Baskin, otherwise the authorities would have arrested her. We may never know what actually did happen to Dawn Lewis, the late second husband of Carol Baskin, but we can speculate and make up theories based on the evidence provided to us, which is exactly what people are doing. So now I want to know, which of these 5 theories do you think is the most believable or at least realistic? Let me know in the comments down below. For now, let's reply to some comments from the video. What if we ran out of toilet paper? Zaytrix said, nobody. Society, for some unknown reason. Toilet paper is the answer. Yeah, see, it's been like over a month now, this whole lockdown thing, and I don't get the whole toilet paper thing. Like, I don't get it. Probably just have a bunch of toilet paper in your house now. Just stocked there, which is good, but you still have to go out for food. So why not just get toilet paper then? I just don't get it. Simply Abstract said, the fact that people went crazy over the toilet paper and just believe everything they're told at face value says more about humanity as a whole than we'd care to admit. That is correct. You're not wrong. People will believe whatever they hear immediately without doing research. Actually, just the other day, I saw on Twitter that Bill Gates' foundation got hacked, and there was rumors going around that like the World Health Organization allegedly started the whole pandemic. Obviously, it's fake, but people believed it because that's the world we live in. Grey World said, answer chaos. I mean, I think there's other ways, other things to do to manage, and that's exactly what our next comment says here from James Richardson, who said, grab a newspaper, an old rag, old t-shirt or something. You have to improvise, people. So there you go. There's always a solution, guys. Maybe don't grab a white shirt because that's going to stain, but, an old t-shirt might do it, even though it'd be gross to wash. You'd have to throw them out. You'd eventually run out of clothes. Let's just hope we don't run out of toilet paper, guys. That's the end goal here. Anyways, I've been Jared Bronstein. You guys have been watching Life's Biggest Questions, and we'll see you guys in the next one.